welcome to another deep dive. I am literally thrilled to have you here for today's explainer, because we are going to take on the role of historical detectives. Have you ever wondered where the line is actually drawn between, say, an epic bedtime story and hard archaeological evidence? Well, today we're heading all the way back to the cradle of civilization to explore the intersection of ancient Mesopotamian dirt and divine tales. We're looking at ancient Sumer, digging into the dust of forgotten empires to see what incredible truths and artifacts our ancestors left behind.
Okay, let's dive into this timeline to really orient ourselves. We're covering an immense sweep of history here. We start way back around 2700 BCE with King Gilgamesh, jump to the 19th century discovery of his epic, and track how these ancient texts actually echo all the way into a 2012 doomsday panic. It's a wild ride, from a Bronze Age king to modern cosmic fears.
Here is our syllabus for today's academic exploration. 1. The Walls of Uruk. 2. The Sumerian King List. 3. Artifacts and epic tales. 4. Gods, floods, and mortals. And 5. Cataclysms, science, and speculation.
Section 1. The Walls of Uruk. Building Civilization.
I really want you to picture this. It's 2700 BCE, and you are standing in a bustling urban center right on the fertile banks of the Euphrates River in modern-day Iraq. This is Iraq. Alive with the hum of the marketplaces and the grandeur of massive temple complexes, it was a profound beacon of culture and economy. This is literally the place credited with the invention of cuneiform writing. It represents the absolute zenith of Sumerian engineering and social organization. And right at the center of this incredible city was a leader whose name echoes through history: King Gilgamesh. The crucial point here is that he wasn't just a myth. He was a real, vital linchpin of governance. He oversaw complex administrative decisions, safeguarded the city militarily, and organized the massive labor required to construct Uruk's legendary, geometrically precise defensive walls.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. The Sumerian King List, bridging legend and reality. This brings us to an absolutely foundational piece of archaeological evidence, the Sumerian King List. By definition, this is an ancient Mesopotamian document listing the rulers of Sumer alongside their highly detailed reign lengths. Finding multiple versions of this list across different sites proves that rigorously documenting their lineage and their leaders was of paramount importance to ancient Mesopotamian culture. They kept receipts. Now, what's really interesting about this is that scholars often describe the list as a mashup of history and mythology. I mean, some kings are said to have ruled for tens of thousands of years, but tucked right among the verified historical rulers is Gilgamesh. This is our critical archaeological breadcrumb. It suggests that, stripped of the grand bedtime stories, Gilgamesh was highly likely a real, everyday historical figure.
Section 3. Artifacts and epic tales. Piecing together the puzzle.
You know, trying to separate the man from the myth is kind of like untangling a finely knotted rope. On one side, you have the mythological Gilgamesh, a super strong demigod out there slaying beasts like Humbaba. But on the other side, you have the historical Gilgamesh, anchored to reality by his name on that king list, physical ancient cylinder seals, and the very remnants of Uruk's walls. These precious, tangible artifacts are exactly what bridge the gap between legend and history. The mythology side of that equation really began to take its final shape around the year 2100 BCE. It was during this era of the third dynasty of Ur that the Epic of Gilgamesh, literally one of the oldest stories ever told by humanity, was finally compiled from a series of much older, pre-existing Sumerian poems. But those stories were almost completely lost to time. Recovering the epic was nothing short of a miracle. These cuneiform clay tablets were buried and lost in the ruins of the Library of Nineveh until the 19th century, when modern archaeologists meticulously sifted through the dirt to piece them back together. Imagine completing a massive jigsaw puzzle made entirely of ancient clay fragments, just to reveal a soul-stirring narrative. Section 4. Gods, Floods, and Mortals. The Divine Intersections. The epic itself introduces a fascinating cast of characters that really drive the story. You've got Enkidu, a wild man created specifically to temper Gilgamesh's arrogance. There's Utnapishtim, an ancient flood survivor who proves immortality exists. And of course, intervening deities like the spurned goddess Ishtar and the sun god Shamash. It's a total emotional roller coaster, showing how divine interventions and the harsh realization of human mortality completely shaped the Mesopotamian worldview. Overarching all of this are the Anunnaki, a group of deities deeply woven through the very heart of Sumerian mythology. As ancient cosmology developed, these figures became profoundly associated with celestial bodies like the sun, moon, and Venus. To the ancients, their movements in the sky were interpreted as divine messages directly linking the heavens to humanity.
Section 5. Cataclysms, Science and Speculation. Decoding the disasters. So, the crucial point is,
what happens when modern minds try to decode these ancient texts? Well, one of the most highly controversial interpretations of these artifacts came out in 1976 with Zecharia Sitchin's book, The 12th Planet. He interpreted our Sumerian tablets as chronicling a rogue planet called Nibiru, and get this, he claimed the Anunnaki were actually extraterrestrials here to mine gold. While this is entirely outside mainstream archaeology, it's a fascinating pop culture phenomenon that shows just how deeply these ancient texts capture our modern imaginations. Let's impartially lay these out side by side to keep things perfectly clear. Sitchin's Nibiru theory relies on an extraterrestrial trigger, a rogue planet swinging by every 3,600 years. On the other hand, researchers like Randall Carlson look at the geological record to suggest repeating Earth cataclysms caused by things like comets and ice ages. And then we have the mainstream scientific consensus, which views Earth's history as being naturally and dynamically shaped over time by observable phenomena like asteroids and climate shifts. The sheer power of these speculative theories became incredibly apparent as we approached December 2012. You might actually remember the frenzy. There were widespread doomsday predictions that the rogue planet Nibiru was going to crash into Earth. It got so intense that NASA had to step in directly. They used extensive sky surveys to confirm and publicly state that there was absolutely zero astronomical evidence of any looming celestial threat. No hidden planet, folks. But 2012 wasn't the first time in modern history that people tried to link ancient myths to literal cosmic events. Back in the 1950s, Emanuel Velikovsky published Worlds in Collision, arguing that ancient texts were actually eyewitness accounts of catastrophic planetary collisions happening strictly right here within our inner solar system. It just goes to show humanity has a really long, enduring fascination with trying to find physical realities buried within ancient storytelling. So, if Nibiru isn't a rogue doomsday planet, what actually was it to the ancients? Let's ground Nibiru back in its actual historical and astronomical reality. For the Babylonians, it was a vital astronomical concept, marking the summer solstice, the highest point of the ecliptic. This wasn't science fiction, right? This dictated their calendrical system and their agriculture. It was linked directly to their central god Marduk. These celestial bodies practically dictated the rhythms of their early existence.
Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. We've journeyed from the physical mud brick walls of Uruk, sifted through meticulous king lists and ancient artifacts, dived into epic poetry, and finally landed on modern astronomical debates. So what do these ancient myths reveal about our ongoing quest to understand Earth's history and the cosmos? I think it shows that the line between lost history, ancient storytelling, and our deep fascination with the stars remains as compelling today as it was thousands of years ago. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and keep questioning the history beneath your feet.